What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Addicts. I'm your host, Dawson, joined by Nick and Wyatt once again. Today, we got a great video planned for you. It's going to be the start of a new series that we're breaking down up until the season, and it's going to be divisional breakdowns. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go pick a division each week, and we're going to pick out – each of us are going to give you a quarterback, a running back, two receivers, a tight end, and then the kicker and the defense from that division that we think will make the most fantasy impact. So notice that I'm not saying these are the fantasy relevant players. These are the fantasy players that are going to be the most impact on your team. So even though there are players that we don't necessarily have as our top at the position, they will still be fantasy relevant. So like say, for example, like we're doing today, we're doing the Chiefs division, AFC West. A lot of the players are going to come from the Chiefs team because that's such a high-powered offense. That doesn't mean that the tight end for other teams is not relevant or not a good fantasy option. It just means that Travis Kelce is obviously the best tight end. So you're going to get a lot of value from this. What our plan is with this is it's going to help us touch on a lot of players that we don't necessarily touch on in like a lot of our videos. So we're going to be able to hit each division, and we're going to break down a lot of different players and explain their fantasy relevance to y'all, and hopefully hit a lot of good players along the way. And we're also going to throw in a few honorable mentions from each of us at the end that didn't really make the list because, like we said, Travis Kelce is probably going to be the tight end for most of us, and we'll have a few tight end honorable mentions, for example. So with that being said, let's get started, boys. You ready?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
So starting off with the quarterback that we think will make the most fantasy impact in the AFC West, I think this is a given. I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes.
I think we're all leaning. I thought we were all on the same page. It's going to be Derek Carr.
Yeah. I mean, I was torn between Patrick and Derek Carr.
No.
He's a close second, bro. Maybe 100%. Like half a point a game.
This has got to be Mahomes. 100%.
Yeah, it's going to be Mahomes at quarterback. There's not much to talk about that. The weapons in that offense under Andy Reid, high-powered offense. He's done it year in and year out. Already has an MVP. Already has a Super Bowl. He's Patrick Mahomes. He's the richest man alive, and he's going to do what he always does if he can stay healthy, which everything says he probably will. So, that's Patrick Mahomes at quarterback for all three of us. Some honorable mention there. I think, Nick, who you got as honorable mention? I think you have a quarterback on
I do have Drew Lock as an honorable mention. I just think that the weapons around Drew Lock are insane as well, but he's not Patrick Mahomes, and it is the Broncos, and it's not the Chiefs, and Andy Reid is not coaching the Broncos.
Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Drew Lock's an actual stud. Like, he's got the weapons. He's got the potential. I think there's a lot of people out there that think he's going to bust, but I actually got to watch him play the Texans when they destroyed them last year. It was like 34-0 or something. It was crazy. And the dude's an absolute goon. He's got a ton of weapons. I'm excited to watch him break out. So I think
I'm actually excited about Drew Lock. If he wasn't in the Chiefs division, he would probably be on a lot of our watch lists and for this breakdown. And that takes us to the running back, and I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. I think that he is just going to get so many touches. He is going to be a top back-end RB1 this year, and if he can get a little bit of work in the passing game, he'll be incredible. But he's just a workhorse on that team. And Wyatt, who you got for your running back here?
You really got to ask. You really got to disrespect my man's like that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You're telling, bro, CEH, bro, what do you even mean? Josh Jacobs can't catch a pass. Clyde's going to be catching passes behind his head. Patrick Mahomes going to no-look out of the back. Did you see that video there? Patrick Mahomes literally behind his back, just whoop, right to the running back.
He threw that thing
he
like
said he's
80.
going to do it. That's what I said. He said he's going to do that in the season. Like, he said that. So he's going to do it. It's going to be Clyde just whoop, and Clyde, what? It's just I don't understand. Like, he's going to have 20 points a game just from receiving and then, like, 15 from rushing, maybe throw in a couple touchdowns in there. Dude's an absolute stud. 40 a week, easy. Give me Clyde.
Nick, who you got? I know who Nick's going to take here.
So I'm going to go with Austin Eckler. I've talked about Austin Eckler a lot, and I just think he's an absolute steal this year. He finished RB2 until Melvin Gordon came back. All right, he didn't finish, but he for the first half of the season before Melvin Gordon came back, he was RB2. I know Phillip Rivers is not there, but I mean, Tyrod Taylor still checks down a lot. He can line up in the slot if he has to. And the only reason why I didn't have Josh Jacobs higher is because Josh Jacobs has not proven. I mean, I know he has the talent to catch passes, but
He hasn't done it yet.
He hasn't done it yet. And then they draft all these receivers, which is telling me that they know something that the rest of us don't know. So they're going to take receivers that can catch the ball. So I like Austin Eckler, especially for PPR. I this year.
if you haven't seen, Mick really breaks down Austin Eckler in his player profile, and he has kind of sold me on Austin Eckler. So I was torn between Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs actually over CEH. But that division has some solid backfields.
All three of those running backs for me are like very close, but I have Eckler, Jacobs, CEH.
They're very close.
We also got that two-headed backfield with Lindsey and Gordon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those backfields in that division are very solid. So moving on to our first wide receiver, and I'm going to go with, of course, Tyreek Hill. Sorry. The fastest man in the face of the earth. He is the number one receiver, maybe not the number one receiving option. It's Kelsey 1A, 1B situation with Kelsey and Hill. But Tyreek is he's a little too boomer bust for my liking on my team. I think there are some weeks where he's going to put up 50 on him, but some weeks he may kind of bust or a little bit. So I'm not super high on Tyreek, but I do think he's the best athlete in that division probably, and he is just going to be a solid fantasy option. He's top-tier wide receiver, so he's going to be my wide receiver 1.
Yeah, when I was looking down the list of all the other receivers I could have taken instead of Tyreek, there was just nobody I could put ahead of Tyreek Hill. He's just too good. And Mahomes. I mean, we've already talked about Mahomes, but it's hard to argue with the number one receiver for Patrick Mahomes.
Wyatt, who's your wide receiver 1?
Dude's an absolute freak. I'm going Tyreek Hill as well. I mean, I'm okay with him putting up like 10 in a week because Kelsey takes over, or, you've got more options this year with CEH. But the weeks he takes over and he's finding the gaps in the defense, the dude runs faster than anyone in the NFL. Like, he's finding the spaces, he's going for massive yardage, and he catches touchdowns, which a lot of, littler guys have trouble doing. I mean, he can do it. He's just so fast. He's a freak. I love it.
He has the big play potential at any point to just put on, like, he can go like 2 for 80 and 2 touchdowns, like something crazy. Yeah. And he has big play potential. So wide receiver 2, I am very torn on this one. I think I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton here. And that's just because Courtland Sutton proved he's very good last year. It does kind of worry me that they have so many weapons in that offense. But the wide receivers in this division it was either him or Keenan Allen for me. So I was just kind of, after Tyreek, it's kind of iffy. So I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton over Keenan Allen. Wyatt, I think you're the opposite.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Keenan Allen, and I think people will fade Keenan Allen every year. And I think this year sort of jumps out the most because Phillip Rivers isn't there. But I think regardless, the dude always jumps out of a cannon at the beginning of the season. I mean, he's a stud. He's probably the best route runner in the NFL. I think he's going to find a way to get the ball. I think he's actually going to do better once Herbert gets in there, which might take a while. But I think you know what you're getting, and that's a really solid receiver for dynasty purposes. Obviously, he's an older guy, and you worry about that. But for redraft purposes and just for the sake of this division this year, I'm taking Keenan Allen, no doubt.
Nick? I am taking Courtland Sutton just because I know Drew Lock has a lot of weapons down there, but all of them outside of Noah Fant are rookies. I mean, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, you got the running backs, but the past threats are going to be Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. And it does take a minute for receivers to break out, to get used to the NFL, especially with no preseason, no training camp this year. So I think Courtland Sutton's going to get a lot of work early just because he's been there in that offense. He doesn't have to learn anything. He's already knows it all. So I think he's just going to be ahead of Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has a new quarterback coming in. I don't know how that's going to work out. There's just too many question marks for Keenan Allen for me. I feel bad because I feel like he does get faded every year, and I do think he deserves the respect that he has earned. But it's just hard for me to give it to somebody with a new quarterback under center.
Yeah, I think solely the only reason I'm taking Allen over Sutton here is because all of the weapons that are there and that Bronco offense. I think Tyrod is extremely undervalued as an NFL quarterback, maybe not for fantasy purposes, but he's super safe. He's literally capable. Alex Smith, on paper. He doesn't throw interceptions. He runs the game. He's a game manager, and I think a game manager is going to get his ball to one of his only receiving options, and a really good
that argument is kind of why I have my honorable mention. I think I'm going to go with Mike Williams as my honorable mention, which we saw he kind of faded off last year. After his first year, he put up 10 touchdowns, insane touchdown. And everyone knew he was going to have some touchdown regression, but he finished with 2 touchdowns last year. I think he's going to come back to more towards the 6 to 7 mark, and I think he's still going to put up maybe 1,000-yard season. He's a very boomer bust kind of guy as well, but I think he's worth an honorable mention at this point. He's a good wide receiver who has put up solid weeks here and there.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think he's definitely going to have a better year than he did last year. He's gonna have a good. He's gonna be fantasy relevant for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and also I think Jerry Jeudy is also an honorable mention in that, but I think he's a little too early. He's a rookie and a lot of weapons.
He's not one of the rookie receivers I'm looking at this year for year
agreed.
one. I mean, year 2, 3, or 4, that's a different story. But for year one, Jerry Jeudy isn't really on my target list right now.
And that's going to take us to our tight ends, and we don't have to talk about this very long, but Travis Kelce.
That's Kelce.
Yeah, it's going to be Travis Kelce.
I thought we were all on the same page with Darren
Alberto might take this one. No, yeah, it's going to be Kelce on this one. But there are a few good honorable mentions on this one. I think I'm going to go with Noah Fant as my honorable mention. I'm going to steal that one from Wyatt because we know Wyatt loves Noah Fant. But yeah, again, it's Travis Kelce, so he's going to obviously trump Noah Fant. But Noah Fant's put in a good season, and I think he's going to be – the only thing that worries me about Noah Fant as far as not wanting him on my team is just the weapons. But obviously Noah Fant is going to be a good tight end for you in fantasy football. So he's going to make a fantasy impact. And you have one honorable mention?
Yeah, so my 2 honorable mentions were actually another 2 tight ends was Hunter Henry and Noah Fant. Like I said with this Cortland Sutton thing, Noah Fant's been there already. He doesn't have to learn anything. He doesn't have to adjust. He doesn't have to just go into training camp without having any rookie, no preseason. Like he doesn't need it. He's already played last year. So Noah Fant, I think, is going to be right there with Cortland Sutton at the beginning of the year, coming out of a hot start. Might cool down towards the end when Jerry Jeudy starts picking up the pace. But then the other one is Hunter Henry. I mean, Hunter Henry is a stud when he's healthy. So
that's a big win, though.
Yeah. So if he is healthy. If he can play healthy, if he has a healthy season, that is a tight end you stole late, because I think if he can stay healthy, he's a top 6, 7 tight end, somewhere in that range. But
yeah, I mean,
that's a huge if. He's kind of like a Will Fuller of the tight ends.
Yeah, I'm not huge on Henry, but Noah Fant, obviously, I've said it quite a few times. I'm super big on him. I think he's the next George Kittle. And I actually think this year I'm going to compare him most to Mark Andrews, and that the fact that I think he's going to be a touchdown magnet. Like, I think that a lot of the options are going to move him down the field, and Drew Lock can throw the ball pretty well. But I think once they get inside the red zone, it's going to Fant. I just think he's a big option. I think Sutton's going to draw a lot of attention. Fant's kind of flying under the radar as far as defenses are concerned, in my opinion. So I think he's going to catch a lot of touchdowns this year, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that is a safe bet that he is going to be a touchdown magnet as the big tight end for Drew Lock. We also have to kind of throw in down Darren Waller's name after having a tight end 2 season. But, yeah, he's going to be fantasy relevant, obviously. And that's going to take us to kickers and defenses. So since this is about redraft, we kind of have to mention kickers and defenses because this is something that you actually do have to draft. So we're going to go defense first. And my advice real quick before we get into defenses, don't draft defenses for the whole season. What you need to do is look at the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, find a solid enough defense who has a really easy schedule at the beginning, because defenses are going to be something you stream all year long. This is my personal strategy. I stream defenses. I'll have like 8 or 9 different defenses throughout the season. And so I always pick a defense that has a really easy beginning of the schedule. But for this division, I'm going to go with the best defense. Probably it's going to have the best season is going to be the Broncos. That defense was very good last year, and I think they're just getting better. So I think that's going to be probably everyone's defense is going to be the Broncos.
Yeah, I have the Broncos as well. I think the Chiefs have a pretty good defense, but I think that offense is so explosive that defense is going to be on the field too much, and that's just not good for fantasy purposes. So I'm going to go the Broncos because I think their offense is I think their offense is a lot less explosive than the Chiefs. So they're not going to be on the field as much as the Chiefs will be.
Yeah, I think the obvious choice here is the Broncos, and I think that's what I'm going to have to go with. But I'm going to say definitely a close second. What I was debating on is the Chargers. I love their defense, bro.
Low-key.
Like, Derwin James is, I think, one of the best players in the NFL.
They have the Bosa.
He's an absolute freak. Yeah, Joey Bosa, absolute animal. I think overall their defense is really solid. I think they're going to be right there. I think it's not going to look as good for them because of I think they're going to have kind of a weak offense this year in comparison to a lot of those flashy offenses in the NFL. And I think they're going to struggle, and they're going to be a back half team. And it's not going to make their defense look great.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think the Broncos you take because their offense is going to be rolling, and that's going to help their defense. And then they're also a mile high, so they've got the advantage at that. So I really like their defense.
I was thinking about the Chargers too. I was thinking about the Chargers too, Loki, with Bosa there. He's going to get you a lot of stacks. But that's going to take us to kickers. And Kickers are kind of overlooked a lot in fantasy football, but it is someone you kind of have to draft.
I have one.
And I'm gonna go with.
I have one in lost leagues because of kickers.
Yeah, kickers do make an effect. Some leagues don't have kickers, so if you don't have a kicker, you can skip this part, I guess. But I'm gonna go with Harrison Butker, kicker for the Chiefs. He's just a great kicker. I think I've had him on like all of my teams. He's just like safe name. He makes a lot of his field goals, doesn't miss a lot of field goals, and I guess I don't know how you do kicker analysis, but he's a solid kicker.
I have Harrison Butker as well because I have the Chiefs scoring 7 touchdowns a game, and that's 7 points just on extra points alone. And throwing a couple field goals here and there.
Nah, Chiefs don't score field goals. You're not getting 3. What? No. So Brandon McManus is the obvious choice here as far as kickers are concerned. Why? Because the Broncos offense is going to be rolling and they have a lot of weapons, but I think they're going to stall inside the 20s because they are trying to figure it out. I think they're going to do well, but I think on some drives they are going to stall, and that's going to be Brandon McManus coming out and kicking the ball 72 yards because
they're mile high.
Denver. Yeah. Who cares? So not only that, their defense is phenomenal, so they're going to be okay with settling 4-3. They're not going to have a problem with that. Oh, do I get to take 3 points and let Von Miller get a sack strip on the next drive? Yeah, sure. Why not? Brandon McManus from 60 yards. Woo!
That's going to be – I think that's going down as the most passionate kicker analysis in fantasy football history.
That's what I was about to say. I've never seen anyone get so passionate about a kicker.
I don't think y'all know this about me, but I used to, digest kicker information. Like when we would draft kickers, I would look at defenses they were playing and their own defense from the previous year, and how often their offenses got stalled inside the 20, and just a whole bunch of stuff. I am actually super passionate about kickers, and I think Brandon McManus is probably going to be the number 1 kicker this year.
Screw draft Clyde. We're going to go with draft McManus. Draft Brandon McManus here. So that is going to do it, guys, for our AFC West fantasy football breakdown. We hope you got some value from it. Those are the most impactful players that we see at each position in this division. And let us know if you like this kind of video. We're going to, every Thursday, I believe, we're going to break down a different division, and that's going to be 8. So that's going to take us right up to the season because we're about 7 weeks out from the season. So hopefully you get a lot of value out of these divisional breakdowns. We hope you like them. We like doing them. They're fun to do. So with that being said, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for watching another episode of The Fantasy Football Addicts. If you liked the video, go down and give us a subscribe. Go follow us on Twitter at the FF Addicts. Y'all know the drill. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.
Draft McManus.
Ooh.